Ruthie is one of the most popular episodes of BoJack Horseman and showcases the worst and most heartbreaking day of Princess Carolyn's life. As she navigates this difficult time, countless roadblocks and hiccups force Princess Carolyn to not just question herself, but her own concept of her past, present, and future. On top of this, it's all told through the lens of PC's descendant, Ruthie, who is telling her class in the future about her ancestor, Princess Carolyn, a framing device that is equal parts effective and heartbreaking. Ruthie is an episode that really hones in on the core of Princess Carolyn as a character, somebody who no matter how many licks she takes, always lands on her feet.
Today is going to be great.
It's hard to think of a worse possible day for Princess Carolyn than the one showcased in Ruthie. Almost every single area of PC's life is completely upended in some way over the course of this day. It's hard to imagine one person being able to take this much on. The first major blow comes early in the day when her client, Courtney Portnoy, fires her.
You're fired.
I'm fired?
This might feel just like a day in the life of an agent, but seasons 3 and 4 of BoJack firmly establish how precarious Vim's business model is. They're a small agency and they rely on having a few high-quality clients who are versatile and can earn them big paydays, rather than having a lot of smaller clients to fall back on. Princess Carolyn has worked her ass off the entire season to cater to Portnoy's needs as a client. Despite this,
between the gun movie misfiring and her nuptials turning into nuptials and her blaming you for both of those things?
Basically, Courtney's action film Mistaken was put on ice after a series of mass shootings tanked the film's box office viability. But when this happened, Princess Carolyn put in so much work so that the film could be released. First, they tried to rework the film, and Diane even wrote an article about gun ownership for women that really swayed public opinion on firearms. PC used this to frame the film as pro-women empowerment, which nearly worked, until another mass shooting put an end to it. On top of this, PC and Rutabaga had organized an entire sham wedding for Courtney and Todd to help drum up publicity and shift her image. They put so much work in to plan an entire wedding in a tiny amount of time, which ultimately was all derailed when Todd got cold feet and decided he didn't want to do it. These failures were not on Princess Carolyn. She put the work in to do what her client requested of her, yet she gets the entirety of the blame. This not only hurts PC personally, but this is a major blow to Vim's viability as a company. And on top of this, PC's rival Vanessa Gecko shoves it in her face.
Did you get fired?
This spirals even further when PC runs into Charlie Witherspoon, who runs her former agency, Vigor. He talks to her about his attempts to purchase Vim the previous year and merge the agencies, which, as it turns out, was something that Princess Carolyn didn't realize even happened. Charlie had approached Judah, who opted not to tell Princess Carolyn. This completely shifts PC's perception of her most trusted employee and professional partner, somebody she had complete and total confidence in, and now that confidence had shattered. When Princess Carolyn confronts Judah about this, he defends himself and tries to justify his decision. Everything Judah ever does, he feels is in PC's best interests. But Princess Carolyn is too hurt by this betrayal.
If I can't trust you, then I can't work with you. You're fired.
Going into this day, Princess Carolyn thought she had a complete picture of her current professional situation, but by the end of the day, that picture had shattered. Princess Carolyn's professional life wasn't the only thing that shattered, because her plans and picture of her own future derail in an even more devastating way as well. When visiting the doctor to check on her pregnancy, she discovered that she's had a miscarriage, now for the 5th time in her life. And unfortunately, Ralph makes this even more difficult for PC. When he calls her to get an update on the doctor's appointment, he says something that makes it tougher for Princess Carolyn to tell Ralph what she's just learned.
Everything is so easy with you, Princess Carolyn. I mean, that's why I love you.
Obviously, PC had just learned something incredibly difficult, and now had to decide if she was going to shatter Ralph's own perceptions of their relationship by making things significantly less easy. This devastating blow began to shift her own perception of her future, which at this point she was imagining to be with Ralph and their son Filbert. While at dinner with Ralph, PC can see Ralph imagining that hopeful future. Ruthie actually says it best in her speech to her class.
A reality she herself had lived in just hours before, and to which she now longed desperately to return.
Princess Carolyn abruptly leaves dinner, and instead of going to her home with Ralph, she goes back to her own apartment. When Ralph finally finds her there, she reveals the truth, that she had miscarried, and that she's miscarried many times before, and that this might not be an easy road for them.
You need to live in this. You need to get used to this, because if you're serious about having a baby with me, this could happen again.
Through her entire life, PC has always managed to land on her feet. She is convinced that no matter how hard this is, she will be able to conceive and have that baby. But when Ralph suggests that maybe they look into other options, it shows that his confidence in Princess Carolyn does not match her own. And this is not acceptable to PC.
Get out! Save it for your next girlfriend. The one you can take home to your parents. The one who's easy.
And just like that, Princess Carolyn's entire perception of her ideal future is gone.
But it's fake.
The last aspect of Princess Carolyn's world-shattering day has to do with her own history, her ancestry. When she accidentally breaks her necklace, the one that was given to her by her mother, she takes it to the jewelry shop to have the clasp replaced. PC's understanding of this necklace is important. It was allegedly brought to the US by her ancestors, and was one of the few things that wasn't sold off as the family struggled and was forced to take desperate measures to make ends meet. It was the one thing they could pass down so that they could remember who they were.
A symbol of the tenacity and stick-to-itiveness that has for generations led my family to always land on their feet.
We even saw the moment that PC was given this necklace by her mother in Season 5's The Amelia Earhart story. In this moment, an 18-year-old Princess Carolyn had just learned that she was pregnant and believed that her hopes and dreams were over. At this point, this was likely the most difficult thing PC had ever faced in her life. This is when Princess Carolyn's mother gives her the necklace.
And when you wear this, I want you to remember that you've come from a long line of women who've taken our licks, but we always land on our feet.
So, to Princess Carolyn, this is far more than just a necklace. This is a symbol of not only her connection with her mother, and not only her line of hardworking ancestors, but also a symbol of the very attitude that defines Princess Carolyn. Going all the way back to the very first episodes that focused on her, Princess Carolyn is a character that takes hit after hit, but always lands on her feet. She always finds a way. And today, at least for the day, this idea itself comes crashing down around her when she learns a devastating truth about the necklace.
This is costume jewelry from JCPenney, circa 1963. Somebody just told you a story. I'm sorry.
This news comes especially hard because it's delivered to her immediately after the news of her miscarriage. This necklace represents the very thing that helps PC pick herself back up after a brutal blow, and for her to go and retrieve that symbol, and then also be told that this symbol itself is meaningless, devastates her entire worldview. She breaks down crying in her car, one of the few times we see her cry in the entire series.
Yeah, well, it makes me feel better.
One other aspect of Princess Carolyn's bad day, and a huge part of her life up to that point, is BoJack Horseman's role. At the beginning of the day, PC has a conversation with BoJack about the offers he's been getting through Vim, despite him not being represented by PC anymore. Princess Carolyn is determined to keep it this way, and keeps telling him that she does not work for him. Judah even brings up that re-signing BoJack, now that he's getting so many offers, could really help Vim stay afloat. But Princess Carolyn is determined to make things work without relying on BoJack. BoJack fired her in Season 3 after she begged him to give her another chance, and rightfully, Princess Carolyn doesn't want to go crawling back to him. She's already spent so much of her life committed to BoJack, she needs to find her own sense of self and success without him. But at the end of her very worst day, as she sits alone in her office, the one person there to talk to her is BoJack Horseman, and he showcases the exact reason that PC was trying to maintain a life without him. When he asks her how her day was, he doesn't even let her answer. He just goes on about his own minuscule problems, mostly frozen yogurt related. But PC actually just lets him vent, and then she gives him some advice. She says on her worst days, she imagines her distant descendant giving a school report about Princess Carolyn herself.
And when I think about that, I think about how everything's going to work out. Because how else could she tell people?
This, of course, shatters our own perceptions of this episode and PC's future, as we've been told this story by Ruthie, the very thing that led us to believe that in the end, everything would work out for Princess Carolyn. But of course, as we the audience know, everything does work out for PC in the end. It just doesn't match her own, or even our own, expectations of her future. Because despite all of these devastating blows to Princess Carolyn's sense of self, I think there's one important thing about the end of the episode that showcases PC's continued tenacity. Though PC has learned that everything she believed about her necklace and her own ancestors was a lie, she is also able to recognize that this story actually didn't matter, that the hope and grit it inspired still existed despite being a fable. We have seen time and time again that Princess Carolyn has been guided and driven by this tenacity inspired by these fabled ancestors. It's the core of her character. And just because the thing that shaped her to be this way wasn't true, it doesn't mean it wasn't important. And PC definitely recognizes this. Because even after this horrible day, where she learns this truth, she still panics when she realizes she's lost her necklace. And after she breaks up with Ralph, she returns to her office to find the necklace sitting on the ground. She replaces the clasp with a paperclip, a representation of that very tenacity the necklace represents, and she puts it back on. Because the necklace still represents these things to Princess Carolyn, but now it isn't some magical ability granted by the ancestors that watch over her, or something she's inherited from her mother. It's actually a symbol of Princess Carolyn herself. Every time she's landed back on her feet, that was Princess Carolyn. Not a necklace, not her mother, not her ancestors. It was Princess Carolyn. Folks, thanks so much for tuning into another BoJack episode breakdown. This is a quintessential PC episode, and I'm glad we dove into it. I also actually just released a Princess Carolyn timeline if you want to learn more about PC's life in chronological order. I also would love if more people checked out the Mr. Peanut Butter timeline as well, so, give it a shot. Let me know what episodes you want me to break down next, and stay tuned for more. Peace.
Johnny to Cellos.